George Floyd was kneed to death by that officer Derek Chauvin in Minneapolis, St. Paul, you know, think about the education or the gross miseducation of that officer that he could just knee this black man to death for 8 minutes and 46 seconds as he's being filmed by two or three different phones, emotionless,
Sure.
stoic, as if it was no big deal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The level of hate. You know what I'm saying, Brother Spin, man? The level of hate.
Right.
Yep.
That's hard.
Yeah. As we say, we talked about that. He's sitting there like, you know, hey, this is what I do. Like he's sitting on a park bench.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man,
and if I read what was in the history book, I would think I could do that too. I would think
exactly.
I would since sliced bread.
And that's the fundamental thing. I mean, what you just said, Brother Brian, is the fundamental thing. I mean, I was literally, my mother pushed me hard in school. The big thing that came out of the civil rights movement for her is that, you know, I may be a single mother. I got to raise this child by myself in the North after I migrated from the South, but the education is going to change his life. K through 12, I was an A student. You know what Black history I got in 13 years of school? Black folks were slaves, which was about a paragraph or two. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, which was a sentence or two. Dr. King had a dream, which was just, we didn't even get the whole speech. We certainly didn't get the rest of Dr. King's life, you know?
And they killed him.
Right? And they killed him, and he was dead. And that was the totality of Black history, you know? Now, and then we're getting all this stuff about Columbus, about, as you said, Brother Phils, about the Pilgrims, about all these explorers and all these heroic things and how heroic and how great a Renaissance man Thomas Jefferson was, and Lincoln freed the slaves. I mean, we were being taught white supremacy from the very beginning. That was the fundamental problem, which is why Black Studies was created in the 1960s, as you all know, on college campuses into the 70s, because we said we had to counter this stuff. But, you know, the reality is most of the people who took Black history at my college, Rutgers University, were Black people. And so how do you go to school for 4 years and not learn about anybody else but other than yourself? You're going to be grossly miseducated with a degree or two or three.
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy. As the old church lady told me, something has got to be did. Something has got to be did. This is terrible. I mean, that's bad English, but it's good theology.
I think it's beautiful poetry. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And that's where we are now. But again, it's got to be connected to, you mentioned Greensboro, North Carolina. I mean, there was a coordination and a kind of a planning with Greensboro and all the different places around the South and around the country. Like there was an understanding that we have to build a movement. Movement means mass energy of people. And I love the energy that's out there, but it's people have to read. And I'm saying all of us now, like all of us really have to read, because you can't just, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I've been at a few rallies and protests where the speakers were just literally making up stuff. And I'm like, you can't freelance intelligence. It doesn't work like that for the long haul.
Wow.
Right.
Well, I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we are here talking with Kevin Powell, and we just heard from Brian, and we've been getting some great information on the chat. And Brother Powell, hopefully, if you are able, we would love to have you to stay a few minutes after the break, because
yes,
we definitely want to delve into this a little more, because I wanted to talk to you after the break, Wendell Thinbad and I, about the mentality of African Americans who have had issues with getting rid of the Confederate flags. And I thought that was a very interesting dynamic. And there was something on YouTube that was trending, or Twitter, one of those social media, that showed an elderly black man defending the Confederate flag. So we certainly want to talk to you a little bit more about that. And then also just to find out from you, where do we go from here? Because we're having some great discussions and monuments are coming down, but those are symbolic things. So we want to talk about what is next. So everybody stay right where you are. We'll be right back with Straight No Chaser.
Yeah.
Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. Other shows water down the issues. We only serve the hard stuff.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
It's because of that historical trauma that goes back so many generations.
Believe in a fundamental form of racial justice.
We are tired. Guys, we're tired. And we are frustrated.
And racism.
This is a critical time for us.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. Anyone else?
My name is David, and in 8 years, I'll be an alcoholic.
Hi, David.
I'll start drinking in middle school, just at parties. But my parents won't start talking to me about it till high school. And by then, I'll already be in some trouble.
Kids who drink before age 15 are 5 times more likely to have alcohol problems when they're adults.
The thing is, my parents won't even see it coming.
So start talking.
Who's next?
Before they start drinking.
I just remembered it's election day. Are you going to vote?
I don't know. I don't think I'll have time today.
Millions of eligible voters in America never make it to the polls or even register to vote. When you don't vote, you're letting other people make decisions for you and pick the things your taxes will pay for. Voting is more than a civic duty. It gives you a voice about the priorities and the future of your community and our nation. Voting gives you a seat at the table.
She's missing class, and she's dropping her pom-poms. Nobody knows where she is, not even her mom. Everybody thought she was the all-American girl. So there goes the books, it's all about the score. There goes the doggy, life is such a bore. There goes the family, she's got a new friend. There goes the looks, this is the end. I guess she really was the all-American girl.
Pick up heroin and you'll throw away everything you love. Share your stories on Instagram with #heroin.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. Other shows water down the issues. We only serve the hard stuff. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
Confederate monuments, whether they are historical or disgraceful, and not just the monuments, but all of that stuff. We've talked. We're joined by Kevin Powell, author, speaker, provocateur,
extraordinaire. Don't forget that.
And all of that. Author of 14 books.
Did you say extraordinaire?
Extraordinaire. That's right.
Your face now.
That's right. All of that. And he is fond of the black and gold, but that it just happened that way.
Yes, sir.
It just happened that way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's just the way it is. I mean, folks are doing stuff. What can I say?
That's how we do.
Yeah. But all of this stuff we're kind of talking about too. The whole re-education and how do we. What do we do with these things? There are people who think keep them. There are people who think get rid of them. There are people who think keep them, but make sure that you understand who it is. We just had a caller in, Brian, who was telling us, that he's in Virginia, and God knows they have a whole bunch of statues in Virginia. Even down here in North Carolina, Fort Bragg, the largest military installation, I think, on the East Coast. Fort Bragg, he's a Confederate general. That they needed somebody from North Carolina to name it, so they just pulled the name up. And not only it was a Confederate general, but he was one of the worst Confederate general. But people don't know. All they know is Fort Bragg. So there's a move afoot too. Down here, I don't know how much traction it's getting, but they were talking about changing the name of Fort Bragg. Well, of course, people are up in arms. Like what? Oh, how can we touch that? Even Trump jumped in on that, saying, "Well, you don't want to change the names, But hell, these people are losers. On top of that, the Confederates lost.
That's right.
If the Confederates lost, and there are people who think, we talk about the monuments, we talk about the statues, we talk about the flag. We haven't talked about the Confederate flag. There's a part of me that really would rather folks if they want to fly that flag, let them know, because I want to know where them folk are. I want to know where they are. I want you hiding out. But in all seriousness, all of this is under consideration. And if you want to have, America, be inclusive, then you gotta be able to tell, the ugly truth and talk about how you got beyond that. But if we keep trying to stave it off as if it never happened, it wasn't that bad, or it was just a few hundred years ago, none of us are slaves, none of us are slave owners. Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of y'all who have benefited, from that, and have this legacy thing going that you're so privileged that you don't know. You don't even know. It's like I talk about the fish that doesn't know it's wet. Doesn't even know it's in water. Its whole life that's the way it's been. So having these discussions, it is good, but what we want to do is continue the momentum, as Brother Powell talked about. The civil rights movement. That was 13 years. Of every day doing something, everybody doing something, going off into other points, and here we are, a few months in.
That's right.
And trying to say, okay, how do we maintain this without killing any more people? Without having to have something else, that just pushes everybody, pushes their passion button for a period of time, and then going, how do we just continue to do this because it's the right thing to do?
That's right. Well, you just said a lot, Brother Spinman. It's powerful where we are. I'm happy to be alive in these times, but I think that we do have to know the history and how we got here. And I'm talking about the activist political history. Like I say to folks all the time, on a real basic level, you have to have some sort of working knowledge of the civil rights movement. Eyes on the Prize is for free. All 14 episodes on YouTube. Eyes on the Prize, the definitive documentary series on the civil rights movement, is for free on YouTube. You need to read it. Lerone Bennett wrote a great book, the former editor for Ebony for many years, senior editor before the Mayflower, Basic History of America through the lens of Black folks. It's there. Our Jewish brother Howard Zinn had participated in the civil rights movement, which is one of the reasons why he wrote the book People's History of the United States, because he realized, let me write the book from the perspective of people who have been left out, which is important. And so I can't stress that enough. People always ask me, what am I? Hashtag read, study, travel. Hashtag read, study, travel. And then you do have to do something. We haven't talked about voting here, but I think that's an important part of it. You got to know what's going on. That's where the reading comes in. You have to vote consistently, not just every 4 years when it's a presidential election, but in every local election. Those elections matter, and then you got to organize. You got to be involved in your local communities on a consistent basis. You have to show up. You have to do something that impacts wherever you live. And it can't. Protests and marches and rallies are important. I've organized many in my lifetime, and I'm sure I will continue to do so. But I also believe in building organizations and building movements and, creating businesses or supporting businesses that support our communities, because all those things are interconnected, as you all know.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you a question, Kevin. And
yes,
just
sir.
in terms of, I have two questions. Why is it that you think that you have African Americans who also have bought into the philosophy that the Confederacy represents